Here to discuss where the war stands now is George Mason University Scalia Law School professor and director of the Center for Middle East and International Law, Eugene Kontorovich. Eugene, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
What should Americans be thinking right now, 6 months into this war? And what are the movements in the Gaza Strip mean right now?
Who could imagine 6 months ago, when Hamas invaded Israel and murdered, raped, tortured, that at this point, President Biden would be holding Israel back from defeating Hamas and rescuing the hostages? And that is what's happening. That's what happened on the call last week with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Biden said, red light. And for a couple months, President Biden has been stopping Israel from taking Hamas's last stronghold. It's almost like if the U.S. invaded Germany in World War II and stopped short of Berlin. If we invaded Iraq and stopped short of Baghdad. America is not letting President.
Why is that? Why is the American president saying stop?
There's probably two reasons. He is concerned about his progressive base, and he wants to make sure that college kids in Madison, Wisconsin, turn out in November for the election. He wants to make sure the Arab community in Michigan turns out for the election, and he seems to put that ahead of basic decency and basic morality, and is betraying one of our closest allies in its time of greatest need.
What is the Israeli public thinking of this? I mean, we see the protests, right? Is that about the conduct of the war? Is that about Bibi Netanyahu? What's the sentiment amongst the Israeli people?
So the protests, I think, are both about a frustration that the war is not yet won, because I think not everyone understands in Israel that it's because Biden has given a red light and stopped Israel short of success. There's also frustration with Prime Minister Netanyahu. But most Israelis, I think the overwhelming percentage of Israelis, are committed to fighting this war to the very end until Hamas is completely defeated and Hezbollah is defeated in the north. But, I think it's good that they're protesting.
Hezbollah is defeated in the north? Is that part of the war? Because right now
Absolutely, because this is not just a war against Hamas, right? On October 7th, it wasn't just Hamas that attacked. Hezbollah attacked all Iran's allies and puppets in the area, encircled Israel, and attacked together. Right now, people don't know this. Close to 100,000 people who live in northern Israel are outside of their homes, are refugees, internally displaced people. Israel's effective territory has shrunk, both in the north and the south. Israel cannot live with parts of the country uninhabitable due to Hezbollah rocket fire.
So how, in the south, against Hamas, how quickly can that be wrapped up?
I think it could be... The minute President Biden says it's okay, I think...
Why does the Israeli leadership have to listen to Joe Biden?
So I don't think they should necessarily, but his leverage includes things like cutting off weapons supplies. Large number of Democratic congressmen, including former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, signed a letter calling on President Biden to stop weapons shipments to Israel. Now, the fact that I want to get back to the protest for 1 second, because I think it shows something. In Israel, it's a democracy. Different people can express their opinions. What protest aren't we seeing? The Palestinian protest against Hamas. The Palestinian protest, release the hostages. Or the protests of the Arab American community in Israel against Hamas. So in Israel, there's two sides to opinion on the war. But why are the Palestinians not protesting? Why is there nothing on that side saying, release the hostages, end the war?
Well, I think we know.
I think so.
And that's why this continues. Eugene, exit question. Does an open front open up on the north against Hezbollah? I mean, are you going to have to go into Lebanon?
Right. So right now, Hezbollah is on an almost daily basis shooting missiles into Israel. Israel cannot live like that. And obviously, the only way to do that is going to be to enter Lebanon and push Hezbollah north of the Litani River, as the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701 actually requires and demands. Needless to say, that resolution is not going to enforce itself. Israel's going to have to make it happen.
All right. Eugene, thank you very much for visiting us. Appreciate it.
Good to see you, Pete.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.